الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونستهديه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهدي الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن محمدًا عبده ورسوله سيد المرسلين وخاتم النبيين ورحمة للعالمين وصلى الله على آله الطاهرين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا أوصيكم عباد الله ونفسي بتقوى الله. Coming Monday is a holiday in Ontario and many other provinces in Canada. It's known as the Family Day. Well, I would like to talk about this concept of family, keeping that in mind. What is the basis of the family? Of course, the foundation of family is on the marriage relationship. This is where the first relationship between human beings was created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, was between Adam and Eve. And so we have, the husband and wife there. And so this is where I would like to, start with the question, how does the marriage take place? Or what is the place of love in marriage? It's interesting when I was reading an article just recently this week, by a professor of neurology from the UK. He begins his article about this concept of love in an interesting way. He says, it's basically, this is a concept which is more expressed in our literature and language, where he says, the essence of love, at least of passionately romantic love, is revealed in its very grammar. And then, some of the things which we take for granted, it's a moment of reflection where he says, we fall in love, not wander into it. We fall head over heels, not dragging our feet, often at first sight rather than on careful inspection. We fall in love madly, blind to the other's vices, not in rational appraisal of their virtues. And so this is something very interesting to look at it from. Of course, then he talks about whether neurology or science has been able to even understand this phenomenon or not. Not yet. From the Islamic point of view, when we talk about marriage, and I've said this many, many times, and I don't shy away from repeating, even Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala repeats in the Qur'an again and again, there are two main basic, criteria. One is iman and the other is akhlaq. To be on the same page as far as the faith is concerned, and to have a solid, foundation of character and akhlaq and behavior. If these two things are there, everything else, social status, wealth, family background, beauty, color, race, these are all then secondary issues. And so where is love? Doesn't Islam believe in this concept? Well, there is. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala actually has promised. Then when the marriage takes place, He blesses the couple with two things. وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ in Surah Rum, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, part of His signs of His power and glory is that He created spouses for you from yourselves. وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُمْ مَوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً. This is where when zawjiyyat takes place, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, then I come in. When the zawjiyyat and the relationship is based on, the divine laws. This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, that then I come in and I do something, a magical thing in the hearts of the couple. And I create this sense of mawadda and rahmah, love and affection with compassion and beneficence. These are the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But in the context of zawjiyat that he talks about in Surah Rum, ayat number 21. So the true love, when we talk about, this is actually a gift of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon marriage and not before it. Maybe before it, after the proposal. I wouldn't deny that. And that is again a sign of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And let the neurologists, psychologists, sociologists and philosophers reflect on this phenomenon of love. And eventually they will come to discover the signs of Allah's mystery and power in human life. Salawat. When we talk about love, of course, this is an inner, feeling. Sometimes people don't have a control on it. And therefore, we will not say, to have hub and love or muhabbat, is it haram? No. But the expression of that comes within the parameters of the sharia laws, divine laws. And this is where we have to be very careful. Can a person express his, feeling of love to somebody that he or she is not married to? And we are talking about love here in the context of, marital relationship. Of course not. There is no room for ijtihad there. Maybe, some young mujtahideen these days will say, yeah, to some extent, yes. No, there is nothing. This is to be within the bounds of the marriage relationship. Can a person, overcome with the beauty of somebody, a woman, and say, I love you? Sometimes people don't realize that having a feeling in your heart is one thing. Maybe you will not be held accountable for that because you can't control it. Expressing it is something else. I was told by a lady where there was a, speaker, a scholar, who had only seen her in the gatherings, religious gatherings with hijab. Outside the Islamic center, she would not observe hijab. So he saw her somewhere, and he said, oh, you are very beautiful, mashallah. And this is somebody who is, you're talking about a religious scholar. This is where we have to realize that, okay, you might have some feelings in your heart where you cannot control, but expressing that becomes an issue from the religious point of view. That is where you will be held accountable. Sometimes we think, well, all these things are haram if it is done face to face. What about saying it, text messages, electronic media? There's no difference. What is haram face to face is haram by other media also. And what we do not reflect, and this is what I will say, that Muslims these days is trained. Oh, let us go and ask the scientists. What do they say? Psychologists. Look at your own basic sources. There is a concept in Qur'an where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about, spiritual disease, the disease of the heart, which has nothing to do with this physical heart, no. Yes, for that you need to go, to the specialist, heart doctor, get yourself treated or whatever. This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about, fi qulubihim marad. Those people who have marad and disease in their hearts. And Qur'an talks about it two different levels. One is on the level of theology and aqidah. And right in the beginning of Surah Baqarah, if you see where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about three types of people, when he talks about the munafiqeen, the hypocrites, he describes hypocrisy as a marad and a disease in the heart. Because what their tongue says is not what is in their heart. Because it is not reflecting the actual belief that a person has, this is known as when there is kufr inside and iman on the tongue, this is known as nifaq and hypocrisy. But on a practical, moral level also there is a concept of spiritual disease. And for this you go to Surah Ahzab, Surah number 33, ayat 32, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala addressing the wives of the Prophet. He says, Ya nisa an-nabi, lastunna ka'ahdin min an-nisa in attaqaytunna. O the wives of the Prophet, you are not like the normal, Muslim women, provided you maintain taqwa. If you have taqwa, then your status will go above them. And then there are certain commands given to them. The very first one given to the wives of the Prophet, and this is what we realize, although the address is to them, but the situations and the phenomenon and the challenges is common for everyone. فَلَا تَخْضَعْنَ بِالْقَوْلِ. When you interact with people, men who are not mahram to you, don't be very soft in your talk, in your tone. What it means is that if they come to you and ask you a question, what was the view of the Prophet on this issue, and you have to give the answer, it is okay. But your style of speaking should be formal, not very, make it very soft. And why? Why is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talking to the wives of the Prophet in this way? فَيَطْمَعَ الَّذِي فِي قَلْبِهِ مَرَضٌ. Because if you start talking in a very pleasant manner with a non-mahram man, then what will happen? Then a fellow who has marad in his heart, who has a disease in his heart, we are now not talking about hypocrisy, we are talking about moral, practical issues here. He might start, entertaining thoughts and ideas about you. فَقُلْنَا قَوْلًا مَعْرُوفًا. And of course, whatever you say to them, say in a kind manner. But be formal in your conversation. Just think about it. What is the scenario? You have the wives of the Prophet. What are they known in Qur'an? What is the title given to them? Ummahatul Mu'mineen. They are our spiritual mothers. Who are the others who are coming and asking them questions? They are their spiritual sons. Even in that delicate relationship between spiritual mothers and spiritual sons, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, be careful. If that is the issue of, interaction between Ummahatul Mu'mineen with Mu'mineen, what about the rest of the Ummah? And this is where we have to realize, sometimes people say, oh, this is about the wives of the Prophet. No, this is a lesson. Then look at the context. And this is where we have to realize, when we talk about the issue of mahramiyyat, in these kinds of interactions, it's not, might be considered to be an old-fashioned idea or whatever, but this is based in the Qur'an and the seerah of the Prophet and the Ahlul Bayt, alayhimu salatu wassalam. إن أحسن الحديث كتاب الله العزيز بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحليم الكريم غافر الذنب وقابل التوب وهو الغفور الرحيم ونشهد أن لا إله إلا هو العطوف للعباد بجوده والعواد على المذنبين بحلمه ونشهد أن محمدا نبيه وحبيبه سيد المرسلين والشفيع المذنبين ورحمة للعالمين صلى الله عليه وآله الداعين إلى سبيل الله بالحكمة والموعظة الحسنة قادة الأمم وأولياء النعمة ومعدن الرحمة أوصيكم عباد الله بتوبة ما سلف من ذنوبكم. When we look at our own situation, let me just extend this theme on a from different angle. You know, during these moment that we are going through, the Me Too movement, it is easier to understand the emphasis that Islam has put on maintaining the boundaries of decency between opposite genders. Before that also it was there, but it was a challenge because the majority of the people in this part of the world would not even, consider that to be worthy of consideration at all. But Islam has been talking about these issues from day one and very clearly. It doesn't wait until a high-profile case like that of the Hollywood producer Harvey Weinstein reaches to the court. And then it becomes a media issue, and then the society starts talking about it. No, Islam look at the human nature, the fitrah. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows better than anyone else the nature of the human being, and these issues have been very clearly mentioned. When it comes to formal, business type interaction between opposite genders, with the aura of decency, the environment of decency, that is acceptable, interaction. But any kind of social interaction is not allowed. The prohibition of Islam starts with the issue of, physical touch. And I actually took the advantage of this Me Too movement to talk about it when our non-Muslim visitors of different, sectors of the community come here. And I say, Islam says, no physical contact at all. So when there is no physical touch, that is the beginning. And if you maintain that, nothing moves further. And this is where we have to realize, for us, shaitan is there. And shaitan has challenged. When he says to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that, I'm going to لَأَقْعُدَنَّ لَهُمْ صِرَاطَكَ الْمُسْتَقِيمِ, Oh Allah, I'm going to sit in ambush on your right path. And I'll sit in ambush for them, for Adam and his children, because I was disgraced because of Adam. ثُمَّ لَآتِيَنَّهُمْ, then I will approach them. مِنْ بَيْنَ أَيْدِيهِمْ, from their front. وَمِنْ خَلْفِهِمْ, and from behind. وَمِنْ أَيْمَانِهِمْ, and from right side. وَعَنْ شَمَائِلِهِمْ, from their left side. وَلَا تَجِدُ أَكْثَرُهُمْ شَاكِرِينَ. And then shaitan actually challenges Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You will not find majority of these people to be grateful to you. And so we have to realize that. Shaitan looks for all situations. And when he finds a man and a woman who are not mahram in a situation where he can come in, he comes in. When the Prophet Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa sallam went for his Hajj, which is known as, Hajjatul Bida, a lady, relatively young, came to her to ask a question. And while the Prophet was standing there, beside him was Fazl bin Abbas, his cousin, a young man. فأخذ ينظر إليها وأخذت تنظر إليه. She was asking her mas'ala about Hajj, and Rasulullah noticed that Fazl was looking at her and she was looking at him. فصرف النبي وجه الفضل عنها. Rasulullah physically put his hand on the face of Fazl, turned it the other way. Look the other way. And then he says, then the Prophet says, رَجُلٌ شَابٌ وَإِمْرَأَةٌ شَابَّةٌ, a young man and a young woman, فَخَشِيتُ أَنْ يَدْخَلَ بَيْنَهُمَا الشَّيْطَانِ. Because of their looking at one another, he says, Prophet says, I was afraid Shaitan will come in between. And this is where we realize that Shaitan looks for the opportunities. And that is where the Prophet says, النظر سهم مسموم من سهام إبليس. This eye is a problem also. This is sometimes used by the Shaitan. And so we have to be very careful about it. And he says, whoever turns his eyes away out of the fear of displeasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah will create this happiness in his heart for his iman. That sense of pleasure and ridha from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In another hadith, which I would not hesitate in repeating here, this is a hadith Qudsi where the Prophet of Islam says, Allah Ta'ala yaqul, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to the human being, Ya ibn Adam. It's a kind of a longer hadith, but just one sentence from that. Inna dha'aka basaraka ila ba'dhi ma harramtu alayk. Because eyes, this is one of the greatest blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But this can be also used in a wrong way. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, O son of Adam, or children of Adam, if your eyes becomes rebellious, it's haram to look, but the eye is still, going in that direction, then I have made it haram for you to look at it. فَقَدْ أَعَنْتُكَ إِلَيْهِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I have helped you. Just by these eyelids that you have. You don't need to go to a doctor and say, I have a problem. No, not even to a Maulana. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, if your eye is looking at something that this is haram, and it's not obeying you, very simply just close your eyes. Your eyelids, Allah says, I have given you for that. And this is where we have to realize that, sometimes we think it's difficult, but the weapons have been given to us. The solution are there very easy. If we have that consciousness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in our mind at all the time. Let me end with an event from the life of Bibi Fatima Zahra salawatullah alayha. Tomorrow is the birth anniversary of the Bibi, and the narrator is Amir al-Mu'mineen, where he says, Ista'zana a'ma ala Fatima. The Prophet came with a companion who was blind. And he asked the permission to enter the house. And this is where Fatima said, hold on, I want to put on the hijab. And the Prophet asked, why did you put on the hijab? But he's blind. And she says, وَإِن لَمْ يَكُنْ يَرَانِي فَأَنَا أَرَاهُ. Yes, he can't see me, but I can see him. I want to maintain my own sense of decency. Not only that, وَهُوَ يَشُمُّ الرِّيحِ. Those who are blind, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala somehow gives them other senses which are more powerful. And probably this is what she was referring to, that he cannot see me, but he can still smell my presence. And that is why I'm putting on the covering. And when the Prophet heard that response from Fatima, he says, Ashhadu annaki bad'atum minni. I testify that you indeed are part of me. Salawat panek para. اللهم صل على سيد المرسلين وشفيع المذنبين نبينا محمد صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم وعلى إمام المتقين وأمير المؤمنين علي بن أبي طالب صلوات الله عليه، وعلى سيدة نساء العالمين سيدتنا فاطمة بنت رسول الله صلوات الله عليها، وعلى سيد شباب أهل الجنة الحسن المجتبى والحسين الشهيد بكربلاء عليهم الصلاة والسلام. اللهم صل على أئمة المسلمين علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي عليهم الصلاة والسلام. اللهم صل على مولانا الحجة بن الحسن صاحب العصر والزمان. محى آثار البدء والطغيان هادم أبنية الشرك والنفاق حاصل فرو البغي والشقاق صلوات الله وسلامه عليه وعلى آبائه الكرام ما اتصلت الليالي والأيام. اللهم عجل فرجه وسهل مخرجه واكحل ناظرنا بنظرة منا إليه واجعلنا من المستشهدين بين يديه. اللهم اجعلنا ممن يذكر فتنفعه الذكرى. إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون.